This is WMAR-TV, Maryland's pioneer television station on Channel 2, transmitting from Baltimore's Big Candelabra Tower on Television Hill, and our studios at Television Park at 6400 York Road, Baltimore, Maryland. WMAR-TV is a subscriber in good standing to the television code.
It is well past dawn here in London, the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral warming to the day and to the occasion. The wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana, and it's a lovely day for a royal wedding. Welcome to joyous and jubilant London, England. Welcome to spectacle by sunlight. Momentarily, the wedding procession begins from Buckingham Palace and elsewhere here to St. Paul's Cathedral. Already here, thousands and thousands of well-wishers, some of them out there all night long. Some of them indeed have been here for 2 nights in succession to ensure their places. All under the watchful eyes of massive security deployed all along the procession route. But the accent all day is on celebration, and what a celebration it already has been. And mind you, the wedding itself is an hour away. And of course, it's a celebration with a distinctly British accent. And you need look no further than this magnificent St. Paul's Cathedral that is the backdrop across the way from our rooftop perch for the perfect symbol of this wedding and this wedding day. A symbol of antiquity and tradition, and shattering a few traditions as well. For this is to be the first royal wedding at modern St. Paul's. Modern, that is, by British standards. It was completed in 1708, this cathedral, and it's the 5th church to stand at the site. In one form or another, there has been a church at this location for 1,300 years. This so-called modern St. Paul's will also witness some other breaks with the past. The first wedding by a Prince of Wales to an Englishwoman in 300 years. And this Englishwoman, Lady Diana Spencer, will strike a modern note in her marriage vows. She will not promise to obey. It's to be a great day for the British. Great expectations about to be fulfilled. A 20th century once upon a time with much of the whole world watching.
This is a CBS News special report. The Royal Wedding. This portion sponsored by the investment firm of Smith Barney. They make money the old-fashioned way. They earn it. From London, here is CBS News correspondent Dan Rather.
With me at our CBS News anchor position here, just what a marvelous view we have of St. Paul's Cathedral. Those of you who've been to London know the cathedral well. As one who lived in London for a couple of years, I've never seen a better view of St. Paul's Cathedral, and what a view we have for you today for this wedding of the century and one of the great spectacles of our generation. With me this morning, David Frost, international journalist and broadcaster. Also with me this morning to help with our commentary and help to have a good time on this celebration, Lady Antonia Fraser. Good morning to you both. David, you've been in these kinds of situations, that is in a broadcast situation, so many times over the years, but as a British subject, as a subject of Her Majesty, what are you feeling this morning?
A great sense of elation. We can hear it, and people hear it all through this. I've watched these sort of ceremonies before. I've never been this close before. We can only reiterate to people across America that this is the real thing. This is not a backdrop. It really does look this way. So a sense of great excitement, this amazing figure of 750 million viewers around the world watching it, and there may never be another wedding quite as spectacular as this. I think it'll be an occasion of great joy, and I think emotion too. I think there'll be more emotion in that huge cathedral than we really anticipate.
Lady Antonia Fraser, as one who is, you're a biographer of many monarchs past, what's the historical significance of this wedding?
Well, it's particularly thrilling because we haven't had the wedding of a Prince of Wales since 1863, when the future Edward VII married Alexandra of Denmark. And we haven't had a Prince of Wales, a Princess of Wales at all for about 70 years. And so we're thrilled because we've been waiting for at least 10 years for Prince Charles to give us a Princess of Wales.
And why should anyone care?
Because our monarchy is symbolic. It's symbolic of our future, and at present it seems to be about the brightest symbol there is around.
Thank you very much, Lady Antonia Fraser and David Frost. We'll be back with you, of course, throughout the morning. I hope that, as is the case with our viewers, that you will lean back, watch, enjoy, have a good time, and help us have a good time.
Special salute to the people in America who've switched on this early.
The wedding day begins with the Queen's departure from Buckingham Palace, and Tom Fenton is outside the palace now. Tom,
good morning,
what is the
Dan.
scene there? Good morning, sir.
It's a marvelous scene. If you love a wedding and if you love a parade, you're going to love this day. It's just about perfect. Everywhere else in the United Kingdom, they're expecting a bit of rain. Here, for London at least, it's good weather. In just a few seconds from now, the minor members of the royal family will leave for St. Paul's. And in about 20 minutes or so, the Queen's procession will leave. Most of the people who are here have been here for 5 or 6 hours. Some have been here since the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. It's a very cheerful crowd. They're in a marvelous mood. They cheered a garbage truck a little while ago when it went by here. They're ready to cheer almost anything. Dan?
Tom, the mood could not be more festive here outside St. Paul's Cathedral. I wonder if it is the same at Buckingham Palace. From what I could gather, that it might be a bit more subdued there as we await something to happen at the palace. Now, nothing, frankly, has happened at St. Paul's Cathedral other than some of the guests have started to arrive, and we appear to be just a little behind schedule.
We may be a minute or two off, but it won't be much. Someone once said if the world was going to hold a parade, they'd want it to be organized by the British. They're very good at doing this sort of thing. A couple of things I've noticed. The carriages that are usually open, these state landlords, have got their tops up. They're convertible, so they're preparing perhaps for a bit of a sprinkle.
And checking out the procession route. We'll be back with more CBS News coverage of the royal wedding in just a moment.
Yes.
Sorry. We'll...
John Houseman for the investment firm of Smith Barney.
The New York Stock Exchange. Trading is over. Some tally their profits, some lick their wounds. And some still look for the ultimate financial formula. For over 100 years, Smith Barney has used only one investment formula. Good old-fashioned hard work. Smith Barney. They make money the old-fashioned way. They earn it.
I used to think a hot dog on a bun was fine. Then I got a taste of the rich life.
I was always happy with hot dogs. Then I got a taste of the rich life.
This is the Rich Life, the delicious, meaty, flavorful life of Louis Rich hot dogs. The hot dog that's rich in protein because it's made from specially seasoned lean turkey. Once you get a taste of the Rich Life, you'll never go back to the same old hot dog.
Personally, the rich life is the only life for me.
That's Jane Russell, starlet. Full-figured then and full-figured now. And today, we gals know how to keep our full figures looking pretty. Under the smoothest fashions, try the Playtex 18-hour seamless bra. Not a seam showing to spoil the smooth look. And the unique fabric that stretches for real support, real comfort in the 18-hour bra makes 18-hour girdles control comfortably. Try Playtex 18-hour bras and girdles. Full figures never look better.
Buckingham Palace in London, and the Queen Mother has been driven from Clarence House, where she lives, to Buckingham Palace, where, of course, she will ride in a coach in one of those wonderful processions we're going to see this morning. And this shot is the Queen Mother's automobile going into Buckingham Palace. This, I believe, is inside the cathedral itself. Indeed, Mrs. Reagan, the First Lady, has arrived at the cathedral. We saw, perhaps you, if you were with us just before we went to the commercial earlier, caught a glimpse of her going into the cathedral. I think it's important for the understanding as we go along this morning, the depth of feeling for the Queen Mother in this country, David Frost and Lady Antonia, that it seems to be, she is by far the most popular member of the royal household, I suppose, excepting the Queen. One always has to say that.
Well, I think in any newspaper poll, the Queen Mother generally wins. The Queen's in a different league, but she's looking wonderful. Did you see her sea green outfit by Norman Hartnell, who is, of course, the royal dress designer?
And there we just had also the Duke and Duchess of Kent following the Queen Mother across to Buckingham Palace there, where they're all going to prepare within Buckingham Palace for the big drive, which will take 20 to 22 minutes, of course.
These are various guests being seated in the cathedral. They are running a little behind schedule because all of the guests were to have been seated by 10 o'clock, but they obviously, it's after 10 now. The Crown Prince of Jordan being escorted to his seat in the cathedral. Now, this has been the scene for about the last hour and 10 minutes. Now, mind you that some of the guests arrived before 9 o'clock, and interesting to me, they were not allowed in the cathedral until 9 o'clock. But for the last hour and 10 minutes, various dignitaries from abroad and some from here, the invited guests of the wedding, have been going into the cathedral and are being seated. Now, let's try to bring you up to date on what is happening at the moment and what is going to happen as this spectacle unfolds during the day. At the moment, the guests being seated in the cathedral. The Queen Mother has arrived at Buckingham Palace, where she will prepare in a very short time to get into her coach and be taken in a procession, wonderful procession, to St. Paul's Cathedral. At Clarence House is the bride-to-be, Lady Diana, who earlier this morning awakened, and one can well imagine that she looked out from those curtains at Clarence House, thinking about what was to take place for her on this glorious day of celebration in Britain. The bride-to-be is in Clarence House. She will, of course, be the last to arrive at the church. What's going to happen over the next hour, and we do hope you'll stick with us and watch the pageantry of all of this. I think it's fair to say that when it comes to putting on a show, nobody does it better than the monarchy in general, and certainly nobody does it better than the British monarchy. I don't think you disagree with that, David.
Absolutely not, and this is, of course, a great deal of money has gone into this very exciting spectacle today. Someone, in fact, estimated that this wedding was going to cost almost as much as some American divorces, which I thought was an interesting fact.
I was wondering whether Lady Diana wrote a little note to Prince Charles, or he wrote a little note to her, because Queen Victoria, before marrying Prince Albert, sent him along a little note which contained the very British sentence, "I do believe the rain will stop quite soon." Lady Diana, of course, has had better luck. No rain so far at all.
I'm going to say, we're hoping that the rain won't start soon. We had sunshine, very brilliant sunshine, for about an hour early this morning. Now it's started to cloud up, and then the clouds seem to be breaking back just behind us. I think it's fair to say that we're going to have a bright day and a bright early afternoon. Mrs. Reagan in the crowd. Perhaps you again caught a glance of her. I say in the crowd inside St. Paul's Cathedral.
It's interesting here that as we look there into St. Paul's Cathedral, this is a moment of discovery for everybody, because the seating plan was very carefully kept secret in advance. And for instance, there's Lord Hailsham, a distinguished member of the House of Lords, in the middle there with spectacles, but no one knows exactly the full lineup of the guests or where they're going to be sitting.
Mrs. Reagan was looking very pretty, I thought, in that pale pink crepe outfit. She's very much taken everybody with her fashion sense in her visit here. Everybody's been delighted with her outfits.
Now, this is the King of Tonga going up the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral.
Yes, that was the King of Tonga there. In fact, the Queen of Tonga was a great star of the coronation, and the King of Tonga, no doubt, will be today.
She stayed out, of course. It rained throughout the coronation, and the Queen of Tonga was in an open carriage, and she refused to go inside. That's why we all loved her.
She was in an open carriage with her tiny, meek little Prime Minister next to her, and someone said to Noel Coward, "Who's that?" with Queen Saloti of Tonga, and Coward replied, "Her lunch."
Of course, that was in 1953.
That was the coronation of the present Queen Elizabeth.
Coronation of the present Queen, and there hasn't been a spectacle in Great Britain. In fact, it might be fair to say there hasn't been a pageantry of such staging anywhere in the Western world, perhaps nowhere on the planet, save President Nixon's visit to China in the early 1970s. There hasn't been a pageant staged anywhere on the scale of this one since the coronation of the present Queen. Again, for those of you who are just waking up in the United States and maybe just joining us, those rest of you who have perhaps been with us from the beginning, but over your coffee or trying to get your brain focused on what is happening here, the best is yet to come. The processions leading from Buckingham Palace to St. Paul's Cathedral here should be something to see. When is the last time you saw a princess riding in a glass coach? You're going to see that. The crowned heads of state are about to depart Buckingham Palace, and Tom Fenton is there. Now, these are the crowned heads of state, major guests, fair to say, who will be among the last seated inside the cathedral before the official processions, including the Queen Mother, the Queen, the Prince Charles, and the bride-to-be arrive. Tom Fenton at Buckingham Palace, can you see any of those crowned heads of state as they leave?
They're just going by behind me now, Dan. Most of them, incidentally, are descendants of one sort or another of Queen Victoria, whose statue is just behind me, sort of the unseen presence brooding over this whole affair.
One notable absentee, of course, is the King and Queen of Spain, of course.
And more about that later. I do want to take a moment to observe this high shot from inside the cathedral, as most of the invited guests have been seated. Some last-minute arrivals, again, the King of Tonga being escorted to his chair. The procedure here is most of the invited guests were asked to get into the cathedral by 10 o'clock. It's now shortly afterward. As mentioned earlier, we're running a little behind schedule. Then following the crowned heads of state. Then following the arrival of the crowned heads of state. I'm sorry, David, did you recognize
No, I just
somebody?
was thinking it's a daunting thought in this age of communications that as she makes her final preparations, Lady Diana could be watching these pictures and getting nervous again about what she's in for and that long, long walk, 3.5 minutes.
Yes, she told us in her last interview as a maiden lady last night that it was 3.5 minutes. She knew, and Prince Charles didn't know. He turned to her and said, "How long is it exactly?"
It's a good point that she, the bride-to-be, Lady Diana, soon-to-be Princess Diana, the first Princess of Wales in 300 years, at least 300 years.
The first Princess of Wales since 1910. That's nearly 300 years.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a princess in 1910.
Yes, that's when the future Queen Mary stopped being Princess of Wales and became Queen Mary. But why should you?
Well, a question to be answered later on, but it's one of the reasons we have Lady Antonia Fraser here with us this morning. I didn't realize that there hasn't been an English woman who was a Princess of Wales.
No, there hasn't been an English woman for at least 300 years. You know, it depends what you count as English. Probably you have to go back almost to Lady Anne Neville, the time of Richard III, and a very long way back.
3 points to Rather for clawing that one back.
Our coverage of the royal wedding will continue after this pause for station identification.
This is CBS.